Central Park in New York City is a place known to many, yet few are aware of its history. In the early 1800s, as New York City was rapidly growing and becoming crowded, there arose a pressing need for a peaceful green space where people could escape the chaos of city life. This led to the creation of Central Park, now a national treasure known for seamlessly integrating nature into the heart of the city. However, the conventional narrative often overlooks crucial aspects of its history. Firstly, Central Park is situated on what were once the ancestral lands of the Lenape people, a fact frequently omitted. Secondly, the development of Central Park came at the cost of displacing Seneca Village, a significant settlement of black property owners, marking an often ignored chapter in American history. This video aims to shed light on the reasons behind the destruction of Seneca Village, and the stories of the successful black residents who once called it home. It is a history that has been concealed and is in danger of being forgotten, but it is a story that deserves to be heard and remembered. Before delving further into this history, we kindly ask you to like this video and subscribe to our channel, ensuring that you stay informed about our thought-provoking narratives. Prior to the existence of Central Park, the area surrounding the park's present borders, from West 82nd to West 89th Street, was the site of Seneca Village. This thriving community was primarily comprised of African Americans, many of whom were property owners. By 1855, Seneca Village was home to approximately 225 residents, with about two-thirds being African Americans, one-third Irish immigrants, and a smaller number of individuals of German descent. Seneca Village was a unique haven that allowed residents to escape the crowded and racially discriminatory conditions of downtown Manhattan. Its origins trace back to 1825 when John and Elizabeth Whitehead subdivided their land into 200 lots. This land was then purchased by various individuals, with Andrew Williams, a 25-year-old African-American shoe shiner, being among the first buyers. Epiphany Davis, a store clerk, and the AME Zion Church were among those who acquired lots, and this marked the birth of Seneca Village. Over the years, more African Americans were drawn to Seneca Village, particularly after the abolition of slavery in New York State in 1827. As conditions in downtown Manhattan worsened, Seneca Village provided a peaceful refuge during times such as the anti-abolitionist riot of 1834. It also welcomed Irish immigrants during the Great Famine of Ireland, contributing to the community's growth. Remarkably, property ownership was considerably higher among black residents of Seneca Village compared to the broader New York City population. More than half of Seneca Village's black residents were property owners by 1850, a rate 5 times greater than that of the city as a whole. This economic stability allowed for the establishment of various community institutions. Seneca Village boasted 3 churches, 2 schools, and 3 cemeteries by 1855. Churches such as the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church of Yorkville and African Union Church served the predominantly black population, while All Angels Church welcomed a racially mixed congregation. Seneca Village residents were diligent workers, typically employed in labor and service roles, which were the primary options available to African Americans at the time. Records also indicate that most children in Seneca Village attended school, highlighting the value placed on education in the community. Seneca Village offered a unique opportunity to live in an autonomous community away from the crowded downtown, even after the abolition of slavery in New York State in 1827. However, discrimination against African Americans was still pervasive in New York City, limiting their opportunities for advancement. The remote location of Seneca Village likely acted as a haven from these circumstances. It also afforded an escape from the crowded and unhealthy urban conditions of the city, providing residents with more living space both indoors and outdoors. In comparison to other African Americans residing in New York, the inhabitants of Seneca Village appeared to be more stable and prosperous. By 1855, approximately half of them were homeowners. Property ownership also granted them additional rights uncommon among African Americans in the city, such as the right to vote. In 1821, New York State mandated that African American men needed to possess at least $250 worth of property, and reside in the area for a minimum of 3 years to be eligible to vote. Out of the 100 eligible black New Yorkers to vote in 1845, 10 resided in Seneca Village. However, this period of success for Seneca Village occurred during an era marked by racial discrimination, where both blacks and the Irish were often considered inferior. The demise of Seneca Village came in the 1850s. During the early 1850s, the city initiated plans for a substantial municipal park to counteract the city's unhealthy urban conditions and provide recreational space. Before Seneca Village was selected as the site for this historic park, other locations, like Jones's Wood, were considered. Jones's Wood, a 160-acre piece of land on the Upper East Side between 66th and 75th Streets, was occupied by affluent families, particularly the Jones and Schermerhorn families. These wealthy families had the resources to resist the expropriation of their land, and managed to secure an injunction to prevent their land from being taken. Unfortunately, the residents of Seneca Village were not as fortunate when the city's upper-class members turned their attention to their vibrant community. In the years leading up to this, Seneca Village was unfairly characterized using derogatory terms, racial slurs, and a media smear campaign to garner support from various groups to displace African Americans and Irish residents from their land. Media proponents of the park began portraying Seneca Village and other communities in the area as shanty towns, with residents labeled as squatters, vagabonds, and scoundrels. Both Irish and black inhabitants were often portrayed as wretched and debased, and the residents were even accused of theft and running illegal bars. Detractors of the village included Egbert Ludovicus Viel, the park's first engineer, who authored a report criticizing the residents as squatters and people with limited English language skills and respect for the law. Other critics described them as stubborn insects and employed racial slurs to denigrate Seneca Village. In 1853, the New York State Legislature passed a law designating 775 acres of Manhattan land, from 59th to 106th Streets, between 5th and 8th Avenues, for the creation of the country's first major public park with a landscape design. Clearing of the land began as soon as the Central Park Commission's report was issued in October 1855. The city initiated little-known regulations that required Seneca Village residents to pay rent. However, members of the community protested and filed lawsuits to halt the sale of their land. Nevertheless, in mid-1856, Mayor Fernando Wood prevailed, and residents were given final eviction notices. In 1857, the city government acquired all private property in Seneca Village through eminent domain, a legal procedure allowing the government to seize private land for public use with compensation to the landowners. This practice was common in the 19th century and had been previously employed to establish Manhattan's grid of streets decades earlier. By 1857, approximately 1,600 inhabitants had been displaced, and all properties within Central Park were demolished. The only institution from Seneca Village to survive was All Angels Church, which relocated a few blocks away, although with an entirely new congregation. There are limited records of where residents went after their eviction, as the entire community was obliterated. In the 20th century, no descendants of Seneca Village residents had been identified. The absence of Seneca Village was deeply felt during the 1863 New York City draft riots, when it couldn't offer the refuge it had in 1834. Instead, some individuals sought safety in Weeksville, Brooklyn. Remnants of Seneca Village endured in later years. In 1871, as workers were uprooting trees at the corner of 85th Street and Central Park West, they unexpectedly discovered 2 coffins containing the remains of black individuals from Seneca Village. Over half a century later, a gardener named Gilhooly stumbled upon a Seneca Village graveyard while tilling the same soil. This area was subsequently named Gilhooly's burial plot in his honor. For an extended period, the settlement remained forgotten, carrying a somber history of destruction, erasure, and the deliberate targeting of black wealth for over a century. Seneca Village's story was intentionally omitted from history books. The erasure of Seneca Village was a purposeful effort to eliminate the accomplishments and successes of its predominantly black population. The impressive structures and achievements of Seneca Village were intentionally marginalized on city maps, creating an unjustifiably negative image that did not reflect reality. However, in the late 1970s, Peter Salwin uncovered a discrepancy in records and embarked on a journey to reveal the truth about Seneca Village. His findings were published in 1989 in a book titled Upper West Side Story, shedding light on this forgotten community. Although it piqued some interest, it wasn't until 1992 when Roy Rosenzweig and Elizabeth Blackmar published The Park and the People, A History of Central Park, that Seneca Village garnered widespread attention. Their book delved into the rich history of Seneca Village and its significance. In 1997, the New York Historical Society organized an exhibition that united a group of individuals committed to uncovering the truth about Seneca Village. This exhibition led to the establishment of a non-profit initiative that endures today. This initiative actively supports research and archaeological excavations, piecing together the fragments of Seneca Village's history. During this period, considerable efforts were made to locate descendants of Seneca Village's original residents. One notable descendant was Andrew Williams, the first person to purchase land in the village. The Williams family has maintained this connection through generations, preserving Seneca Village's heritage. Ariel Williams, the family genealogist, has diligently documented their lineage, ensuring that the story of Seneca Village endures. In 1998, the Seneca Village Project was established through collaboration between the New York Historical Society, Barnard College, and City College of New York. This project, now under the Nonprofit Institute for the Exploration of Seneca Village History, aims to raise awareness about the significance of Seneca Village as a free, middle-class black community. The tragic fate of Seneca Village serves as a stark example of how black communities were displaced and their wealth systematically destroyed. Seneca Village's demise was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of urban renewal initiatives that disproportionately affected marginalized communities. The consequences of this intentional displacement and erasure continue to manifest today, with higher poverty rates and social issues disproportionately impacting black communities. It is imperative that we confront the uncomfortable truths of our past. By doing so, we honor the lives that were uprooted and the descendants who continue to carry the weight of this history. By sharing their stories and challenging the narratives we've been told, we can make a difference. As always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos to ensure more people learn the truth about Black history and have their voices heard. Thank you for watching.